So the exception handling is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors so that normal flow of the program execution will be maintained. So that's the main concept of exception handling. So handling the exceptions at runtime. So exception means what? An unwanted, unexpected event which occurs during the execution of a program at runtime. So that stops normal flow of your programming. Wherever the error occurs, it will stop there only. Wherever exception occurs, it will stop there only. Rest of the program won't execute. So that even the exception occurs, how you can execute the entire program. Only that error it has to throw for us, then continue further lines of code. How can we do that? So that you can do with applying exception handling mechanism. Then you can handle that. So what is error? What is exception? Error indicates a serious problem that a reasonable application should not try to catch. But exception is a reasonable application might try to catch it. So exception is an object. So you can catch that. But error you cannot catch. Exception you can catch that. So when exception occurs, program execution gets terminated. In such cases, we get a system-generated error message. The good thing about exception is that they can be handled in Java. By handling exceptions, we can provide a meaningful message to the user about what is the issue, why it is coming, instead of system-generated. System-generated message you cannot understand. But if you give your own custom message, and you can understand why this message, why this exception is occurring, why this is the reason for that, you can find it out. So that's the reason. But why exceptions will occur? There are several reasons why exceptions occurs. Because opening a non-existing file is not there, but you're trying to open that. Network connection problems, bad input data you're providing. All these are the reasons for exceptions. If you do such kind of mistakes, and you'll get exceptions at running time. So after running your program, you will see all those issues. Then your program will terminate there itself. Without terminating, even the exception occurs also, and you can continue further lines of code. So there is no relation for the line of code which is throwing an exception, but other lines you can run. So how you can run other lines? By applying the try-catch blocks or exception handling mechanism concepts. So the hierarchy of exception classes, all these exception classes are available in java.lang package. The root class is throwable class. So what is the root class? Throwable class. Then exception class. Then error is there. So in the exception, again categorized into two. This is the compile time exceptions, IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception, and then runtime exception, other categories there. So runtime exception means this will occur at runtime only. Arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, index out of bounds exception. We have seen array index out of bounds exception in the arrays, right? That array index out of bounds exception also you will get at runtime only. After running your program, you will get that issue. You will get that exception. So these are all called unchecked exceptions. They occur at a compile time, at runtime. So these arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, array index out of bounds exception, string index out of bounds exception, all this will occur at runtime. So that means what is unchecked exception? There are two types of exceptions: checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions. So checked exceptions occurs at a compile time. What are the checked exceptions? Example, IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception are the example for compile time exception or checked exception. So they will occur at a compile time only. That means while writing the code itself, they will throw. And but the runtime exceptions, so these are runtime. After running the program, you will get this. Compile time, they won't show any mistakes, but runtime only this will throw. And so The error category is these are stack overflow error. That means when your stack memory is full, then you will get this. Virtual machine error, out of memory error. When your heap memory is more, then you will get this out of. When you are not handling properly objects, you'll get these errors. When you are not handling your local data, you will get this error. So assertion error is there one more. All these are errors, error category. But there are two types of exceptions I told, right? Checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions. This is the interview question. What is the difference between checked and unchecked exceptions? What are the types of exceptions? We have two types of exceptions. One is a checked exception. Another one is a unchecked exceptions. What is meant by checked exceptions? See, the classes which directly inherit the throwable class, except runtime, exception, and error. That means except this runtime and error, which classes are inheriting to throwable class. That means these classes, right? These classes are inheriting to this throwable class. Those are called checked exception. That means the example is for checked exceptions, IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception, file not found exception. These are the checked exceptions. These checked exceptions occurs at compile time. So what is unchecked exceptions? Unchecked exceptions are the classes which inherit runtime exception class. See that. This is the runtime exception class. The classes which inherits the runtime exception class is called unchecked exceptions. So unchecked exception examples are arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, array index out of bounds exception. So these are all examples for unchecked exceptions. Unchecked exceptions are not checked at compile time, but they are checked at runtime only. Then first we should know why exceptions will occur. So what exception when you will get? Arithmetic exception when you will get? Null pointer exception when you will get? What is the reason for these exceptions? So let's understand that, then we'll come to know how to handle them, right? So when you will get arithmetic exception, so if you divide any number by 0, then you will get an arithmetic exception. See that, int a equal to 50 by 0. So this line of code will throw arithmetic exception. Then it will stop there only. Program execution terminates there only. Then in the console, you will see arithmetic exception divided by 0. That's a default system message. So this is the reason for arithmetic exception. Why you will get arithmetic exception? In your program, you are dividing a number by 0. Then your program will throw arithmetic exception to you. Sir, why I will do with it? Maybe you are directly not doing, but maybe some variable has a null value and that variable you are using for the division. Maybe a by b you are doing, or xy, your x divided by y you are doing. Maybe y value is a 0. So that time you'll get a arithmetic exception. So next, null pointer exception. When you will get a null pointer exception, if we have a null value in any variable, then performing the operation on that null variable will throw null pointer exception, NPE, null pointer exception, you will get it. Null pointer exception you will get. So string s equal to null, system.out.println s.length. So null pointer exception throw. Okay. So see, on the this s is having a null value assigned, but you are not giving a value for this s. But on that null variable, you are calling the length method. So that's why you will get a null pointer exception, NPE. NPE means N for null pointer, P for pointer, E for exception. Null pointer exception you will get it. So that's the reason for null pointer exception. Any variable has a null value, then you're doing operation on that null variable, then you will get a null pointer exception. Please remember that whenever you see null pointer exception, What is the meaning of that? The variable has a null value. The variable has a null value. That is the reason you're getting a null pointer exception. So when you will get a number format exception, the number format exception means the wrong formatting of any value may occur number format exception. The wrong formatting of any value may occur number format exception. So the wrong formatting of any value may occur number format exception. Suppose I have a string variable that has characters. Converting the variable into digit will occur number format exception. So alphabets are there, characters cannot convert into integer. If you try to convert, then it will throw number format exception. Even we have seen in the WebDriver, right? So in the string variable, there is a commas, and you are trying to convert into integer with commas. That also wrong conversion. That's why you're getting a number format exception. So how can you convert first string object? This is a string object, right? String object. How can you convert that string object into integer primitive format? So this is the formula. Integer primitive data type, variable name equal to integer wrapper class dot parse into static method. So that's a class name dot static method, right? We can call class name dot static method. So that's what I'm calling. Integer dot parse int of yes. Yes is the variable, string object variable. So this will throw number format exception. This will throw number format exception. So that's a number format exception when you will get. But in the string variable, if you have a numbers, then you can convert that. But if you don't have a number, it's not possible. If it is alphabets, characters are there, that you cannot convert. That time this line will throw a number format exception. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Okay, next one, array index out of bounds exception. When you will get array index out of bounds exception. So if you are inserting any value in the wrong index, or it would result array index out of bounds exception. Your array size is 5, but you are inserting at the 11th position. So that will throw array index out of bounds exception. So these are all the reasons for the particular exception. If you know the reason, we can solve easily, right? So how can we solve that exception? So you can solve that exception by try, catch, finally, throw, and throws keywords you can use. These 5 keywords you can use to handle these exceptions at a runtime. So what is a try block? So Java try block is used to enclose the code that might throw an exception. These are all the code it is throwing exception, right? This you include in the try block. So this line of code, you put it inside the try block. This line of code, you put it in the try block. This line of code, you put it in the try block. So then even this exception occurs, the next lines of code, it will execute for you without any no stop. It won't terminate your program execution. It will continue. But if you write it directly without a try block, it will terminate here only. It will terminate here only. It will terminate here only. But if you add this line in the try block, the next lines of code will continue execution. Even the exception occurs here, it will throw proper exception message and will continue. So that's the advantage with the try catch. So try, so it must be used. It must be used within the method only. Where you can use try catch block, where you can write in the method body. So if an exception occurs at the particular statement of try block, the rest of the block code will not execute. Please catch this line. For example, in the try block, you have 5 lines. Second line, you got an exception. Third, fourth, fifth line won't execute. It will skip. Automatically, the cursor will go to catch block. See, this is that try block. Block means curly bracket, right? Curly bracket starts and ends. Here, the statement which is giving exception, you can put in the try block. So if it is not related to that, don't keep in the try block. So this is the one. So it is recommended not to keep the code in try block that will not throw any exception. If it is not throwing an exception, don't keep that line of code in the try block. Which line is throwing exception, that line only keep in the try block. Other line you put outside the try catch blocks. So Java try block must be followed by either catch or finally block. So try block must be followed by either catch block or finally. So any one must be there after try block. So you must catch that. So this catch block, what it will do, if there is any exception here in the try block, this catch block will catch that error and it will throw. This catch block will execute. If there is an exception in the try block, there is an error in the try block, then only catch block will execute. Suppose there is no error in the try block, then catch block code, this code won't execute. That's a catch block. So catch block will catch the error in the try block and the catch block code will execute for you. Here you need to write all catch, so exception class names and the object reference variable. Exception class. What are all exception class? We have seen exception class. We have seen IO exception, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, array index out of bounds exception, file not found exception. All these exception class names you can write here. Catch parenthesis inside exception class name and object reference you have to give. Then that object reference dot, you can get the message, get message method. You can get the cause, reason for the exception, get cause method is there. Both returns a string type data. And there is another void method, print stack trace method. It will print the complete stack trace. Which line error is coming, all this you will get with the print stack trace method. So this object reference, you use call all the methods that I have told you just now. Get message, e dot get message, e dot get cause, e dot print stack trace method. So object reference, this is the object reference dot get message, object reference dot get cause, object reference dot print stack trace method you call it. Okay, so that is the catch block you need to use. So the syntax of try finally block, try block. So try block is ending, then finally block. So without catch block, you can write instead of catch block, you can write finally block also. So finally block is another very important. So you want to execute a code always, even the exception occurs here also. This block of code always executes. If there is no exception also, finally block executes. So finally block code gets executed always. So whatever you write in this curly bracket inside, finally block inside, that code gets executed always. Definitely it will execute. So always executes. So it won't miss. So what code you need to write? Any important code you write inside. You want to execute that code mandatorily. Whatever happens in the above, mandatorily you want to execute that code. Then put that code in the final block. So when you can use finally block code is used to execute an important code. So that code always gets executed. Mainly streams closing, files closing, and database connection closing, you will put in the finally block. Or even our so browser is not closing, right? In the WebDriver, you can put that entire browser code in the finally block. Driver.quit or driver.close. Then always your browser will be closed. It won't be open. So that's the advantage with the finally block. So catch block, I told you, Java catch block is used to handle the exception by declaring the type. Yeah.
If a finally block, in finally block, if we got an exception, what can we do? Sir?
Then it won't execute. That will also skip. That is, I am going to explain that. When finally block doesn't execute, I'll tell you this. Okay.
Okay.
When finally block doesn't execute, but generally finally block always executes. But few cases finally block code also doesn't execute. What are all the cases? I'll explain. So catch block. So catch block, basically I told you, right? If there is a error in the try block, then only catch block will execute. So the declared exception must be the parent class exception or the generated exception type you have to use. The good approach is to declare the generated type of exception. That means a specific exception, if you know, put that in the catch block here. If you know the exact exception, what exception it will come, put. For example, arithmetic exception, right here, arithmetic exception, instead of writing exception class, root class, or throwable class. So better write an exact exception name. If you don't know, then you give the root class, that is exception class. That is also fine. So even you can write a, so the catch block must be used after the try block only. You can use multiple catch block with a single try also. But without a try block, catch block alone, you cannot write. There must be a try block, then catch block. First a try block, then catch block. Or try, catch, finally also you can write. Catch block after you can write finally also. If you want finally block also along with the catch block. So multi-catch blocks, you can see one try block, see multiple catch blocks. So catch, arithmetic exception. Why arithmetic exception? Here you are dividing by a 0. That's why arithmetic exception. Next, a second catch. Why this array index out of bounds exception? You are putting a 6th place, but you have 5 elements, but you are putting a 6th place, the element. That's why array index out of bounds exception. Other than these two, any other exception occurs, then this will take care. The root class will take care. So that's why e.print stack trace you can put. So this is the one try block, multi-catch blocks you can write. So that's our one. Java finally block. Java finally block, what it will do is, see, when this finally block doesn't execute, so this is the one, right? I told you. Try, catch, finally block, right? So why you need to use this? Any cleanup you want to do, or like closing a file, closing a database connection, so such kind of code you want to execute, then finally block is mostly used. So when finally block code doesn't execute, see, when the death of a thread is killed, then your code, your finally block doesn't execute. When you call system.exit in the finally block, then also it won't execute. When an exception arises in the finally block, that time also finally block code doesn't execute. So finally block, you can use close method to close the files, to close the database connections. You can use that. Okay, I'll stop here and tomorrow we'll continue. Rest of the throw and throws keywords are there. And